Let me tell you about my relationship with my sister, Emily. I live in a high-rise condo right by the station, but that doesn't stop Emily from looking down on me and my husband. She sneered at us both, our work clothes apparently beneath her. Her attitude is always condescending, with a triumphant expression that shows she thinks she's better than me. This isn't new. She's always been like this, trying to make me suffer and take away my joy. It reminds me of when my ex-boyfriend cheated on me with her. Emily looked down on me then too, laughing at my pain. I remember biting my lip, feeling small and humiliated, until my husband stepped forward to defend me. My name is Shannon, and I've been dealing with Emily's superiority complex since we were kids. She might seem nice on the outside, but inside she's mean and incredibly selfish. She's always thought she was the best, and our parents eventually gave up trying to discipline her. Emily has called me all sorts of names: stupid, idiot, slowpoke, and useless. It's hard not to feel small when someone constantly puts you down. In school, she would laugh along with others who treated me like a toy, adding to my misery. At home, she's even worse, using harsh language and never respecting my belongings. Once, she accused me of using her towel, making a huge scene and calling me trash. Our parents tried to discipline her, but by the time Emily reached junior high, they had given up. Most of my childhood memories are filled with her tormenting me. As we grew up, our relationship only got worse. Emily was popular and pretty, always the centre of attention. In junior high, she started ignoring me at school, which was almost a relief compared to the harassment. But at home, she continued to treat me like a servant, demanding things like juice and berating me if I wasn't quick enough. Emily never allowed me any peace or advantage. She would take my things without permission and even sell or throw them away. But if anyone touched her belongings, she would explode with anger. Our home felt like it was under her rule, and I was practically her slave. Being constantly put down stunted my confidence and potential, making me even more withdrawn. Emily's nastiness grew worse over time. In high school, she would ridicule me for struggling with my grades, calling me hopeless. When I asked for help, she demanded $200 an hour, showing just how little she cared. Despite her own decent grades, she never offered genuine help or support. Living with Emily meant always being beneath her contempt and ridicule. She was definitely smarter than me. One of my most vivid memories is when she stole a friend's boyfriend. My friend Julie had a boyfriend from another school who was quite handsome and well known locally. When Emily learned about him, she couldn't resist. "Your friend is dating that handsome guy, huh?" she asked. I knew she was up to something. "Emily, are you thinking something bad?" I asked. "How rude! My thoughts are always pure," she replied. But Emily went after Julie's boyfriend anyway. Using her looks and persuasive skills, she hooked up with him the very day they met. Worst of all, she dumped him after just a week, claiming she was bored. Julie was heartbroken, and I cried too, feeling sorry for her and embarrassed by Emily's actions. I stayed close to Julie, supporting her through our school days. Over time, my anger towards Emily's arrogance and overbearing nature began to boil over. Life has a way of bringing sudden separations. That was the case with our parents, who died unexpectedly in a car accident. At the time, Emily was a junior in college, and I had just started my freshman year. The shock was immense, and I spent days in a daze. Emily, ever the resilient one, recovered from the grief first. She took care of everything, from the funeral arrangements to cancelling insurances, all on her own. Then she took all of our parents' inheritance for herself. Needless to say, I protested, "What are you thinking? Our parents' legacy should be shared equally between us sisters. It's outrageous to keep it all to yourself." "Since when did you start talking back like that? "You were just dazed during the funeral and didn't do anything about the paperwork," she replied. "That may be true, but that's irrelevant." "It's not irrelevant. I did what I had to as the older sister. You were useless when it mattered, so isn't it only natural that I get more of the inheritance?" In the end, Emily took most of the inheritance. I could have sued, perhaps, but I didn't have the energy back then. All she left me was a single picture frame, the only picture of our parents together. "Just keep that and cherish it. Put it in your room or something," she said. Later, Emily disposed of our childhood home, filled with our parents' memories. All that was left for me was that picture. As we both entered society, my sister and I grew even more estranged. When I turned 30, I finally got a boyfriend. His name was Jason, a promising banker, good-looking and charming. Despite all the bad experiences I'd had, I felt like my luck was finally turning around when I started dating him. Meanwhile, Emily, who had always seemed to have everything going for her, was starting to lose her momentum. She seemed disliked at work and had endless interpersonal issues. When we met for the first time in a while at our parents' gravesite on the anniversary of their death, Emily sighed in an unusual moment of vulnerability. "Seriously, it pisses me off. My company is full of idiots," she complained. Then she looked at me and said, "You look happy and carefree, though." I tried to reassure her that not everything was perfect for me either, but she just smirked. At that moment, I should have been more cautious, remembering how selfish and awful my sister could be. A few weeks later, I ended up in tears. I couldn't reach Jason, my boyfriend, no matter how many times I tried. He was leaving my messages on read. Then, one day, by chance, I bumped into them in the city. Emily was walking arm in arm with Jason. "Shannon! Long time no see," Emily said, grinning. "Why are you with Jason?" I asked, confused and hurt. Emily shrugged and said, "Sorry, but he was too good for you, so I just couldn't help myself." She said this shamelessly in public, sticking her tongue out at me. It felt just like what happened with Julie in high school when Emily stole her boyfriend. "We're planning to get married soon, so you should come too, okay?" she added mockingly. "Don't mock me," I snapped, refusing to go along with her charade. My ex-boyfriend walked away, laughing with Emily, leaving me standing there, frustrated and in tears. I sat on a bench in a nearby park, zoning out and struggling to understand why this was happening. It seemed too coincidental. Had Emily known about my relationship with Jason, even though we never talked about it? Had she been investigating my life? I couldn't figure it out, no matter how much I thought about it. As I sighed deeply, lost in thought, a woman approached me. It turned out to be Julie, my old high school friend. I cried again, telling Julie how Emily had stolen my boyfriend. Emily had become our common enemy. We agreed that there couldn't be anyone worse, but life has its ups and downs. That day, Julie introduced me to a wonderful man named Ethan. He was 5 years older than me, a mature and composed man. As I shared my story of betrayal, Ethan sympathized deeply. "That's tough," he said. "I've had a similar experience, so I understand." Ethan and I hit it off immediately and began a relationship with marriage in mind. He was passionate about his job in condominium management. Watching him diligently tend to the flower beds in his work clothes, he seemed genuinely happy. "This is when I feel most at peace," he said, smiling. "Taking care of the plants. How about you, Shannon?" I found his work fulfilling and began helping him more, finding an indescribable sense of contentment in our shared activities. After a modest wedding, I quit my job at Ethan's request to focus on home duties and pursuing my interests. Working together on the flower beds brought us closer. One day, while Ethan and I were still in our work clothes, we went to the supermarket. There, I ran into the last person I wanted to see, Emily. "Oh, isn't that Shannon? What are you doing in those work clothes?" she sneered. I'm helping out my husband with his job, I replied. Husband? When did you get married? Is this him? She asked, clearly intrigued. Hi there, I'm Emily, Shannon's sister, she introduced herself, looking Ethan up and down. My name is Ethan. Nice to meet you, he replied politely. Emily snorted with laughter, the kind of laugh that always made me feel small. Typical poor couple, she scoffed. I live in that high-rise condo in front of the station. I'm on the top floor with Jason. I was shocked to hear that Emily and Jason lived together. That triumphant expression on her face. She had always been like this, always trying to make my life miserable. Just as I felt despair creeping in, Ethan stepped forward to protect me. Well, thank you. I own that high-rise condo, he said calmly. Emily's smile faltered. Don't be ridiculous. Not in those work clothes, she snapped, unsure whether to believe him. It might seem surprising, but it's true, Ethan continued. I own not just the high-rise condo where you live, but several other buildings. Managing the gardens of these buildings is part of my daily routine. Emily seemed in disbelief, scoffing at the idea. You're just bluffing. If you really owned the building, why would you do menial tasks yourself? Leave that to a management company. Of course, I hire a management company for specialised work and major cleaning, Ethan explained, but I find it faster to do some tasks myself if I want them done right. The management company doesn't always weed or prune the plants the way I'd like. Emily was at a loss for words, clearly shocked by the authenticity of Ethan's response. Then Ethan added, About the top floor of that high-rise condo you mentioned, there have been complaints about a dog you're keeping. What about my Marlin? Emily asked, clearly disturbed by the turn of events. Ethan continued, The complaints are mainly about your dog's smell and toilet habits. Are you letting it pee on the indoor plants? Also, your garbage disposal and sorting aren't up to par with the building rules. I'm following the rules! Don't make false accusations, Emily protested, visibly unsettled. Just then, a familiar male voice called out Emily's name from a distance. It was Jason. Hey, Emily, oh, isn't that Shannon? Long time no see. Then, noticing Ethan, Jason's expression changed. Ethan, it's been a while. Why are you in work clothes again? Just usual work for me, Ethan replied. We've talked about the building's management before, remember? By the way, you're with Emily, aren't you? Yes, she's my wife, Jason confirmed. So that makes you my brother-in-law, Ethan noted. What? I'm Ethan's brother-in-law. That means Ethan is my husband, Jason exclaimed, clearly startled. Jason turned pale, realising the situation and understanding how much I resented him. Emily, however, seemed the only one clueless about the dynamics at play. Hold on. What's the relationship between you, Ethan, and Jason? She asked, confused. Ethan is a well-known businessman around here, Jason explained, and he even has some of his assets managed at our bank. Wow, I had no idea you were married to Shannon, Jason said, looking surprised. I didn't know you were married to Shannon's sister either, Ethan replied. I never talked about it because I didn't want to remember how they treated me. Realising this was a rare opportunity to explain everything, I cleared my throat and said, Ethan, let me introduce you again. This is my sister Emily. I hate to say it, but she's awful. She's been mean to me since we were kids, and I've always had a hard time because of her. Shannon, what a terrible way to introduce someone, Emily said, clearly irritated. But it's true, isn't it? I continued. I've always been belittled and overshadowed. She has stolen and even sold or thrown away my things numerous times. Honestly, most of my childhood memories are unpleasant because of her. Enough, Shannon, this isn't the place for such things, Emily interrupted. If not here, then where? Besides, everything I'm saying is true, I replied. determined to continue despite her discomfort. "It was awful in high school too. My friend Julie had her boyfriend stolen by Emily, and then she dumped him after just a week. Truly, she's the worst. Julie was devastated." "That Julie who introduced us, so the woman who made her suffer in school, was you?" Ethan asked, turning to Emily. Faced with Ethan's imposing stare, Emily stepped back. Not many could face Ethan's stern look without fear. Speechless and sweating, Emily couldn't respond. I had heard from acquaintances that Emily had a history of going after other people's men in college too. She was widely known as a horrendous relationship wrecker, likely using this behaviour to boost her own ego. At this point, I decided to also bring up the issue of our parents' inheritance that Emily took all for herself. When our parents died in a car accident, it was terrible. Emily took all the savings and insurance money for herself and left me with just a single picture frame. "Right, but that was because you didn't handle any of the funeral arrangements," Emily retorted. "I admit that I was too distraught and sad to think about anything. I'm grateful that you took care of those complicated procedures, but still, shouldn't we have discussed how to divide the inheritance fairly between our sisters?" "It's too late to say that now. You should have spoken up back then," Emily snapped. "Yes, it's all in the past now, and no amount of regret or resentment can change it. But there are things that, even knowing this, I can't help but say now. I just wanted Ethan to understand what kind of terrible person my sister is," I said, feeling the weight of years of silence lift slightly. "Basically, that's the kind of person my sister is, truly the worst. That's why I haven't been in touch and why I didn't tell her about marrying Ethan. I just didn't want anything to do with someone so rotten." "Shannon, stop it already. You're going too far," Emily exclaimed, clearly furious. Ethan looked appalled, and Jason seemed taken aback. It appeared even her husband didn't know everything. "Emily, is that what you're really like? Unbelievable," Jason said. "It's not true. Shannon is just making things up," Emily protested. "No, everything I'm saying is true. It's Emily who's lying," I insisted. "Jason, whom do you believe? Emily or Shannon?" Ethan asked. "I believe Shannon," Jason replied. "I believe Shannon too, of course," Ethan added. Emily looked shocked, unable to believe Jason had sided with me. "Why are you betraying me so casually?" she asked, her voice shaking. This was exactly what I had hoped for, I thought. For Jason, maintaining good relations with Ethan was critical, given Ethan's immense wealth and importance to Jason's bank. I was sure Jason would side with us. "I'm glad you believe Shannon, Jason. If you had sided with Emily, I might have moved my assets from your bank to another," Ethan said. "Please don't say such frightening things. There's no way I would oppose you, Ethan," Jason reassured him. "I'll never forgive you," Emily shouted, her voice full of anger. "I won't forgive you. You're such a vile woman. I've always thought so. There's no one else as duplicitous and awful as you," Jason retorted, pointing at Emily. "All you do is criticize others. I'm really sick of it. Be honest for once. You only care about the money I make, don't you?" "That's not true. Why would you say that?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. "Don't lie. It's obvious. You were probably planning to dump me as soon as you could, just like that guy you ditched after a week in high school. You married me just because I was making good money." "You just wanted to torment Shannon," Jason accused. "Why would you say such a thing now?" Emily stammered, looking completely defeated. The three of us stared at her, and she was visibly flustered. She probably never expected Jason to betray her. This was the climax of the confrontation. Finally, I decided to deliver the coup de grace myself. "By the way, I've always wondered, how did you know I was dating Jason? I hadn't told anyone," I asked. "That was just... I happened to see you two walking in the city," Emily mumbled. "Walking in the city? We always used Jason's car. Where exactly did you see us? I really want to know," I pressed. How could I remember something that happened so long ago? Emily tried to deflect, but I wasn't letting it go. Always with the lies. Trying to cloud the issue with vague answers is pointless because I know exactly how you found out, I said, my voice firm. What are you implying I did? Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Don't play dumb, I already know. It was the picture frame with our parents' photo. You planted a listening device in it, I revealed. The two men looked at Emily in shock, and her face went pale. She was speechless. Yes, Emily had indeed hidden a listening device in that picture frame. After Jason left me, I thoroughly investigated how my sister could have known so much about my situation. If there was any connection, where could it be? After considering all possibilities, I finally arrived at the truth. Emily had been bugging us. She had sneakily placed a listening device in the photo frame that held our deceased parents' pictures. When I found it, I was so shocked. It all made sense. I would never throw away a photo of our parents. Of course, I'd keep it displayed properly. Emily used our love for our parents to her advantage, and I was stunned. It was truly the lowest of the low, seriously creepy. Emily, you're messed up, Jason said, shocked. So you found out about Shannon and me dating and acted all innocent while getting close to me, I chimed in. I was careful not to touch that listening device, so Emily's fingerprints must still be on it. Got anything to say, Emily? Emily's breathing became heavy, her face showing the look of someone cornered. She was clearly shocked that her eavesdropping had been discovered. I later learned that while eavesdropping itself isn't a crime, breaking into someone's home to plant a bug would be necessary for legal action. But for Emily, the revelation alone was a huge blow. Jason, fed up with Emily's behaviour, declared, Emily, I'm appalled. I can't take it anymore. Let's get a divorce. What? Wait, why would it come to that? Emily stammered. Because you're the worst kind of woman. How can I stay married to someone who has made Shannon and Ethan feel this terrible? Jason replied, firm in his decision. No, wait, please reconsider, Emily pleaded. But her spirit was clearly breaking. She knelt in the middle of the road, muttering, I'm sorry, with a look of regret. It seemed she was admitting to planting the listening device. Back then, things weren't going well at work, and I was so frustrated. That's why I bugged you, to make sure I wasn't being outdone. I was foolish and went too far. I'm truly sorry. I'll change, so please forgive me, she begged. I'm sorry, but this isn't about forgiveness anymore, I responded. Do you understand how much pain I've suffered because of you? I don't think you do. Next to me, Jason removed his wedding ring, his expression solemn. I was foolish to fall for such a woman so easily. Forgive me, Shannon. It's okay, really, I reassured him. Because of that, I got to meet Ethan. Thank you. I'll get a divorce from Emily and focus on my work. Ethan, we won't be relatives anymore, but I hope we can still get along. Of course, let's keep in touch, Ethan agreed. Hey, wait! Don't decide everything on your own, Emily cried, desperate. Jason, please don't leave me. But Jason no longer cared for her. Leaving a crying Emily behind, we walked away. Emily apparently didn't want a divorce at all and refused to sign the papers, despite being persuaded. Eventually, Jason had to file for divorce through a lawyer. After they got divorced, word about Emily's behaviour spread quickly at her workplace. Her colleagues were appalled to learn that she had planted a listening device in a photo of our deceased parents. Unable to bear the shame, Emily quit her job. After resigning, things didn't go well for Emily. She moved from her luxury condo to a cheaper one and lived alone. Struggling with the lower standard of living, her savings quickly dwindled. I know all this because Emily reached out to me several months later, asking to meet. When we met, she looked drastically different. Her figure was spilling out of the cafe chair, and she had gained quite a bit of weight, likely from stress eating. Her once youthful beauty was gone, her skin and hair in poor condition and her clothes too tight. "Shannon, please, could you help me reconcile with Jason?" Emily asked, clearly desperate. "Are you thinking of getting back with Jason? I think that's impossible," I replied, trying to be gentle but firm. "Don't say that, please. We're sisters, aren't we?" Emily pleaded. That was the last straw for me. After all the suffering she'd caused, how could she bring up our sisterhood only when it suited her? I despised her selfishness. "I'm sorry, but just seeing you irritates me," I said, standing up to leave. "Wait, Shannon, don't abandon me," she begged, but I walked away, saying, "Goodbye, never appear before me again." I don't know what became of Emily after that, but I hope she lives a long life, reflecting on her actions. Thanks to Ethan, I am now living a happy life every day. We've been blessed with twin daughters, and my current goal is to ensure they don't end up with a strained relationship like my sister and I did. I want to love them equally and foster a wonderful sisterly bond. After all the hardships I've endured, I aim